The CCP used the epidemic as an excuse to restrict the entry and exit of Chinese citizens, closed 46 ports, attempted to kidnap 1.4 billion Chinese, and closed the country again.
Faced with the food crisis, CCP propaganda is promoting the potato as the staple food as the new trend of the fourth staple food revolution.
Mike Pompeo said the mission set is to ensure the next century remains a Western democratic, freedom-loving century like this last one, and not one dominated by a model that General Secretary Xi Jinping wants it to be.
Hong Kong arrested 3 former opposition members of the Legislative Council, including Zhu Kaidi.
On November 17th, Tianjin added a new confirmed case and one asymptomatic infection.
New cases of the epidemic found in Jilin. On November 18th, in Yanbian, Jilin, a man was admitted to the hospital for intestinal obstruction. Before admission, the man and his wife tested positive for COVID. The couple were diagnosed with the virus in September and were cured and discharged. Experts determined this to be a relapse case.
CCP police bullying the senior and women. A country without the rule of law allows the police to bully women and the senior.
In Tangchang Town, Pidu District, Chengdu, a female vegetable vendor was beaten to the ground by CCP urban management. Her injuries have yet to be assessed.
A female college student was sexually harassed by department leaders and committed suicide. The student's father reported that Liang, the former secretary of the piano department, harassed his daughter and caused her depression. My daughter was admitted to the piano department of Xi'an Conservatory of Music in 2014. Then my daughter was targeted by Liang as a freshman. He started harassing my daughter. He approached her many times, wanting to make her become a CCP member. He asked my daughter to his house, to his office, and do all kinds of nasty things to her. My daughter was too scary to tell us.
The CCP's mafia police broke into citizens' homes and robbed them openly.
The tragedy under the CCP's rule. A man was dying of a sudden illness. The passers-by were watching and filming, but no one dared to help.
In Changping, Beijing, more houses built on village land faced demolition. The residents called for due process, but they were confronted with a large number of security guards holding riot gear. We hope to talk to you about the actual situation in this community. Please listen to us. Please follow the legal process. Please show us your legal documents. What's happening here? Our owners know nothing, and we did not receive any notice. You are treating us like enemies, not citizens. We are unarmed.
Korean War veterans in Chongqing signed agreements to donate their bodies after death. Their organs belong to the CCP. On November 15th at Chongqing, Cheng Ming, a veteran of the PLS 12th Army 34th Division, said, "My wife and I are getting old. We can no longer make contributions to the CCP government. We want to donate our bodies after death."
The CCP continues to sow confusion about the truth of the virus, putting the blame on Italy this time. Finding the virus origin is an ongoing process involving multiple countries. We hope all nations work positively with the WHO to push this forward. China will actively participate in global scientific research to track the origin of the virus and the pathway of its transmission. We'll work with the nations of the world and contribute to this global effort.
Carrie Lam revealed why she requested the central government's assistance twice. There are limits to the Hong Kong people's autonomy. That is, Hong Kong must be governed by a majority of patriotic Hong Kongers. don't believe it's okay to let Hong Kongers decide all affairs by themselves without the central government's intervention. That is not okay. This idea is impractical. If the central government relinquishes all power, there will be chaos that hurt Hong Kong's interests. It's beneficial to Hong Kong if the central government remains in power.
An American slammed the CCP and trampled the CCP's five-star flag. The Americans have segregated the CCP from the Chinese people. In the U.S., the CCP has become the target of public outrage.
All the way, brother, to the car.
BLM leaders are closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party. The main connection is through Asians for Black Lives, which is controlled by the San Francisco-based Chinese Progressive Association, or CPA. The CPA is
The documentary reveals that Black Lives Matter is controlled by the CCP. The BLM's Asian headquarters is the Chinese Progressive Association, which is a vengeful organization that supports socialism and communism.
the former chief executive officer of the
Dominion voting system seems to be figuring larger and larger in the interest of your legal team. And what is the latest?
Oh, definitely, Lou. I've just gotten some stunning evidence from a first-hand witness, a high-ranking military officer who was present when Smartmatic was designed in a way that and I'm going to just read you some of these statements, if you don't mind, so I get them exactly right from the affidavit. Designed in a way that the system could change the vote of each voter without being detected. He wanted the software itself to function in such a manner that if the voter were to place their thumbprint or fingerprint on a scanner, then the thumbprint would be tied to a record of the voter's name and identity as having voted, but that voter would not be tracked to the changed vote. He made it clear that the system would have to be set up but not leave any evidence of the changed vote for a specific voter, and that there would be no evidence to show and nothing to contradict that the name or the fingerprint or thumbprint was going with a changed vote. Smartmatic agreed to create such a system and produce the software and hardware that accomplished the result for President Chavez. After the Smartmatic electoral management system was put in place, he closely observed several elections where the results were manipulated using the Smartmatic software.
Somewhere around 700,000 ballots were counted surreptitiously. They were counted in secret. The Republican watchers, which is what they're called in Pennsylvania, were literally kept in corrals. They were then locked out. Some of them were actually roughed up a little bit. In the Philadelphia part, not the Pittsburgh part. But the total number now is, the exact number is 688,770. We'll probably get to 700,000 by the time we finish the hearing. That'll be on Thursday. But today is to really argue the legal part of the case. And frankly, this is a case that we would like to see get to the Supreme Court. So, we're prepared in some of these cases to lose and to appeal and to get it to the Supreme Court. You might remember in Bush v. Gore, the Bush campaign lost in the state of Florida because it was a Democratic court, 5-2 if I recall correctly. So you're not going to win every one of these. I don't want to say it's because it's a Democrat judge or whatever. Some of them are just as fair as anybody. But in some cases you win, in some cases you lose. Most important thing is this will be now our first established vehicle on our way to the Supreme Court. Or I should say exactly a second. The one in Michigan, even though the certification went ahead, that case is also another vehicle to go to the Supreme Court. So now we have two. Shortly we'll have Wisconsin and soon Georgia. And then we'll have three more.
Evidence of voting fraud continues to mount as Democrats push back against President Trump's efforts to ensure a fair election. In Arizona, the rabidly anti-Trump Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, is in charge of the state's election, a person who has even called President Trump's supporters neo-Nazis. She is refusing to cooperate with the investigation into election fraud and even rejected a request from Arizona's Senate president for an independent analysis of voting data. In Georgia, as the state prepares to conduct a hand recount of all ballots, President Trump's campaign releases the obituaries of 4 dead people who somehow managed to cast their ballots. Democrats insist there's no such thing as voter fraud, but there's the proof right on your screen. These people are dead, some of them for almost 20 years, and they also voted. In Pennsylvania, some 20,000 dead people are on the active voter rolls, and official government data reveals nearly 70 people voted in the general election who were born in the 1800s.
Unfortunately, it was a violent weekend actually here in
but
DC.
Why?
That's a
because
great
of all
question.
those Trump. You know what, Lindsay? Hold on. I'm going to ask our control room. I want to show you guys all of the destruction and violence that, occurred this weekend. But you notice that none of that, check that out. None of that is actually coming from Trump people. You know what it is, Lindsay? That's the left.
Yeah. And you know what else it's not coming from? CNN. That's the Daily Caller who captured that.
CNN had zero coverage of it. Look at all this. Is people on Twitter. That's what's happening to people in the streets. The Trump people who were out there, the thousands upon thousands that were marching, there was no destruction. There was no vandalism. There was no destruction of property. They were here to march to exercise their First Amendment. And you know what? The funny thing about this is that none of this was covered at all. In fact, it was all, the alternative reality of what the press wanted to cover.
And the sad thing is, I think we have some footage of it, but there was a family, a mom out there with her 3 kids. Someone fell on one of her kids, attacking families.
Oh, because guess what? They just wanted to walk down the street. Look at this.
They're not doing anything, and you have people aggressively going against them. And to your point,
watch this little girl. Do you see it there?
Yes.
That's crazy.
This guy's about to hit her with
He's going to hit the kid.
You can't commit a crime with your words, and you can't incite violence. But other than that, you can print any damn thing you want to, and we'll let our users judge. Give me your thoughts on that.
Those are generally the rules we have. I mean, our focus on these policies.
No, you don't, Mr. Dorsey. Excuse me for interrupting, but you're censoring right and left, trying to make both sides happy, and you're making neither side happy.
No, that's not the intention. The intention is to...
I know it's not the intention, but it's the result.
I can see why you might say that and why you might perceive that, and that's why we do think it's important that we add more transparency to how we moderate content, that we give more control to individuals to moderate their own content and focus on algorithms. But a lot of our policies are focused on making sure that people feel that they can express themselves in the first place and not driven away. Everything you mentioned about bullying, about harassment around illegal content or violence, incitement to violence, that is what our policies are, and that is...
I know, and excuse me for interrupting, but my time's limited, and I want to hear from Mr. Zuckerberg. But you're not just doing that. You started to censor content. Why not have both Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump able to say whatever they want to on your platform?
The United States has successfully carried out a test run aimed at destroying an ICBM target with a sea-based missile defense system. The Pentagon said Tuesday that the mock ICBM launched from the Marshall Islands was successfully intercepted and destroyed by a SM-3 missile fired from a U.S. destroyer out at the sea. A senior Pentagon official described the successful test as a critical milestone for the U.S. defense program. The Pentagon did not specify which country the system is designated to protect the U.S. against.
You got Fauci, right, who I have recommended should be terminated. He's now talking about the third quarter of 2021. After they juice you up with the vaccine. Can we get the cover of The Economist? Look at the cover of The Economist this weekend. The Economist is nothing more than the tip sheet for the party at Davos, right? It's the tip sheet for the party at Davos. And this is what they got in your future. The big dark tunnel. And at the light at the end is the needle. Right, the needle, which covers, which has the vaccine, off of all your money, right? That piled in here to support these companies. That Pfizer actually ended up lying about it. Oh, we're not part of it. Okay, there it is, right there. That's the cover. They're the tip sheet for the party at Davos. That's the People magazine of the party at Davos, right? A couple weeks ago, I think Time had the owned by the Salesforce guy, had the Great Reset. I want to play Trudeau on the Great Reset. Great Reset is very simple. It's resetting after Trump's defeat. Once they get Trump's defeat, they think that since you don't have a leader, this is all going to go away. Number one, he was not defeated. He won. He won resoundingly. Here's why I know resoundingly. In 16, we focus on a couple of key areas to see, because they all kind of vote in a group. It kind of moves in a group. Youngstown, Ohio, we looked around Ohio, right? You're not going to tell me 2.6 million. Let's play Trudeau for a second. Let's play this guy.
Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and the SDGs.
Sound is, and here's what we should do is play play the highlight reel of him in India with remember he and the wife went over. That was so embarrassing. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say,
sure.
It's really funny because we've been, we as a conservatives talk about this idea of the Great Reset. I didn't realize it was a literal thing that they were actually pushing, right? I thought this was like, a concept. A lot of people said, oh, that's kind of like a conspiracy theory fringe thing. It's not. It's actually on the Bill and Melinda Gates website. They talk about like, here's the ideas that we're putting out. Here's what society needs to move towards. This is a literal movement.
It's not
that they
a conspiracy. Okay, in the third week before we play Trudeau, hang on for a second, because on the third week of January of the year of our Lord 2017, there are two speeches given. One is in Davos at the World Economic Forum. It's Xi, and Xi walks through the whole deal. He walks through globalization. He walks through Made in China 2025. What they're doing with One Belt, One Road. It's basically the network effect. Everybody's going to be essentially a tributary state to the Middle Kingdom. Hang on for a second. You missed your mark, so you just got to hang on. The Middle Kingdom. He walks through the whole thing, and they're clapping and applauding and high-fiving. He says at the time, the only problem we have on the horizon is populism and nationalism. 2 days later, Donald J. Trump gets up and gives his inaugural address. The American carnage, that was a defense of the Westphalian system. It was a defense of the nation state. It was a defense of you as a citizen of that state. Right? That's the two opposing forces. The Great Reset is that, hey, we know we cheated. We don't care because you don't count. You're just a grundoon. You're just a cog in the machine. Right? That's the Great Reset. The Great Reset is get rid of Trump. You get rid of Trumpism. You know why they're shocked and they don't want to talk about it? Trumpism. This is why it's such a scam. You know he didn't lose. We won down ticket everywhere. We held the Senate, right? Picked up seats in the House, one state legislature, flipped two more state legislatures, had a big rousing win all across the nation. This is why it's such a scam. This is why you're on the winning side. You know why you're on the winning side? It's because of you. It's not because of Trump. It's not because of us. It's not because of anybody. It's because of you. It is you. It's on your shoulders it rests. And my God, I couldn't think of anybody in the world I'd rather rest on the shoulders of. What does Churchill say? The most important of all the virtues is courage. Because upon courage, all the other virtues rest. And you are nothing if not courageous.
One time, Giuliani went to Beijing and met with Liu Qi, a member of the CCP Central Committee. The first thing Liu Qi asked when he met Giuliani was, right now the China-U.S. relationship is at its best. How do we think we can make it even better? This is, of course, just bureaucratic talk. How do we increase China-U.S. trade? Do you know what Giuliani said? Sooner or later, there will be a war between us. And Liu Qi was like, what? Why'd you say that? Because you said it yourselves. He then said, as long as I'm alive, I'll probably see it happening. Both economic and hot wars are possible. Then Liu Qi just stood up and left. This was what Giuliani told me in his own words. The thing is, Mr. Giuliani saw the true nature of communism. People like Giuliani, they didn't take any money. President Trump is determined to take down the CCP. Many has asked me, is he capable of that? In the last 4 years, if he started a full effort to take down the CCP, he would have done it a long time ago. In the first 4 years, he was just making preparations. Actions were planned in the second 4 years, but President Trump is absolutely determined to take down communism. Many in his family came from former communist countries. He has a very clear idea. But many people do not see this. So from this you can see the difference. Those who like socialism and communism, those who cut deals with the CCP in the name of Democratic Party, they are the embodiment of evil because they worship Satan. Those who truly want to take down the CCP are the ones who truly worship God, Jesus, or Buddha. They are absolutely anti-Satan. In this matter, there are no political parties, only good versus evil.
France becomes first European country to top 2 million COVID-19 cases. COVID-19 cases in South Korea exceed 300 for first time since August. Tokyo COVID-19 cases hit record 493. Early trial results show Sinovac vaccine triggers immune response. Study says mouthwash can kill COVID-19 in 30 seconds. FDA approves emergency use for first at-home COVID-19 test kit. Pfizer CEO says very close to applying for U.S. emergency approval. Pentagon says U.S. to draw down troops in Afghanistan, Iraq by January 15th.
Dear mama, are you okay over there? Your son is crying and missing you, and sees you in his dreams. You said take down the CCP, cause it's God's will, it's God's will. So I'll wait for you, and I'll see you when we end the CCP, yeah.